A fire on Nursery Road. On the quiet backroads of Dorchester County, South Carolina, February 17, 2001, began like any other winter morning. Rural roads, scattered homes, long stretches of silence. Then, a call came in about a vehicle fire along Nursery Road. When firefighters arrived, they expected a routine scene: extinguish the flames, clear the wreckage, move on. But once the fire was under control, they made a discovery that would change that community forever. Inside the trunk of the burned car were the remains of 21-year-old Kandee Louise Martin. What started as a vehicle fire quickly became a homicide investigation. And over the next 2 decades, this case would evolve into one of South Carolina's most debated capital punishment cases, ending with the execution of Marion Bowman Jr. This is the story of Kandee Martin, and the man convicted of her murder. Who was Kandee Martin? Kandee Louise Martin was born on October 2, 1979. She was 21 years old at the time of her death. Friends described her as someone trying to find her way in life, like many young adults do. Court records later revealed that Kandee had connections to individuals involved in the local drug trade. According to testimony, some exchanges weren't strictly financial, and disputes sometimes followed. But, regardless of circumstance, one fact remains constant: she was a young woman whose life ended far too soon. And on February 16, 2001, the night before the fire, everything changed. The dispute. Marion Bowman Jr. was 20 years old at the time. He and Kandee had known each other since their school days. Prosecutors later stated that Bowman was involved in selling crack cocaine in the area. According to witness testimony presented at trial, there had been tension between Bowman and Kandee over money that was allegedly owed. That afternoon, multiple witnesses, including Bowman's own relatives, claimed that Bowman confronted Kandee outside a residence. During that confrontation, he allegedly demanded payment and warned her that if she didn't pay, she would be dead by dark. It was a statement that would later become central to the prosecution's case. Whether it was an empty threat or something more, that would soon be argued in court. The night of February 16th, as evening fell, Kandee reportedly drove to a house where Bowman and several others were gathered. Among them was Bowman's cousin, James Twain Gatson. What happened next has been debated ever since. According to Gatson's later testimony, an argument broke out. He claimed Bowman led Kandee away from the group. A short time later, he said he heard gunshots. Prosecutors argued that Kandee was shot and that her body was placed in the trunk of her own car. The vehicle was then driven to a rural area and set on fire, allegedly in an attempt to destroy evidence. But instead of hiding the crime, the fire drew attention. By morning, authorities were involved, and the investigation moved quickly. The arrests and testimony. Police arrested Marion Bowman Jr., James Gatson, and 2 other individuals connected to the events of that night. Because the fire damaged much of the physical evidence, the case leaned heavily on witness testimony. James Gatson, who initially faced murder charges himself, entered into a plea agreement. In exchange for testifying that he saw Bowman commit the shooting and admitting he helped move the body, his charges were reduced. Other co-defendants also received lighter sentences after cooperating with prosecutors. The credibility of these witnesses would later become one of the most controversial aspects of the case. Trial and sentencing. In 2002, Bowman went to trial. Prosecutors argued the killing was intentional and connected to the financial dispute. They charged him with murder and third-degree arson. The jury convicted Bowman on both counts. They also found aggravating factors, including kidnapping and larceny with a deadly weapon. For the murder charge, Marion Bowman Jr. was sentenced to death. For arson, he received 10 years. At just 20 years old at the time of the crime, Bowman was sent to death row at Broad River Correctional Institution. But the legal battle was far from over. Appeals and claims of innocence. From the beginning, Bowman maintained that he did not kill Kandee Martin. His defense team argued that the prosecution's case depended largely on what they described as incentivized testimony, statements from witnesses who benefited from plea deals. Reports later surfaced that James Gatson had allegedly confessed to the murder while in jail, before ultimately testifying against Bowman. Defense attorneys also raised concerns about ineffective legal representation and potential racial disparities in death penalty sentencing. Bowman was a young black man sentenced to death at age 20. Appeals referenced research on brain development and youth decision-making, arguing that his age should have been a significant mitigating factor. Over the next 23 years, multiple appeals were filed. All were denied. The final chapter. On January 3, 2025, the South Carolina Supreme Court set Bowman's execution date. A final appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court was rejected. On January 31, 2025, Marion Bowman Jr., age 44, was executed by lethal injection. It was the first execution in the United States that year, and South Carolina's third since executions resumed in 2024. In his final statement, read by his attorney, Bowman said he did not kill Kandee Martin. He acknowledged his past involvement in drugs, but continued to assert his innocence. Reflection. Kandee Martin's life ended at 21 years old. A family lost a daughter. A community was shaken. And decades of legal battles followed. Was justice fully served? Or were there unresolved doubts? Cases like this remind us that true crime isn't just about courtrooms and headlines. It's about people, victims, families, and the lasting impact of every decision made in the justice system. As always, if you share your thoughts, please do so respectfully, because behind every case file, there are real lives.